Hey there everyone, Steve Gonzer, physical therapist with Run Smart Online, and we're getting ready to kick off the Midfoot Project. We are about from today, 2 weeks away to launching, where we're going to be putting a 5-week course on to help runners run smarter, get better run form, and stop heel striking. I want to show you something that I haven't talked a lot about, but I'm going to get into a little bit more in this video and some other ones, is that your run form is only as good as some products of your other running. So if you're thinking, if you're out there running, there's really a couple key pillars to running and being a smarter runner. The first one, you get this key pillar, which is run form, which is really important in your running. Then you have your training. Like if your running's really good, or your run form's really good and your training sucks, you're still in trouble, right? The other thing I look at is we have run form, training, and strength. Okay, and there's certainly diet in there. I'm not the expert on diet by any means, but you have run form, training, and strength. And if you don't have all three of these lined up, it's very easy to be one of the 80% of runners who are injured every year, and that's really what the statistic is. Too many runners are getting hurt, and it's because they're not training smart, really, is what it comes down to. So I want to show you a runner here who we looked at last week, and it's going to show you she needs work on her run form. But I want to show you and just dive into glute strength. I posted a video not too many days ago about 2 exercises to work on glute strength and hip strength. And I want to show you on a runner right now what happens when you're not strong, because these are things that will not make a difference. You will not know that they're happening. It'll only be like too late once you realize that you're in trouble and then you have an injury or something going on. So it's all about glute strength. This is all part of the Midfoot Project. We actually do, we include a lot of strengthening. I'll actually show you. I got one of the printouts here. Let's see if I can do this. This is one of the printouts that we give in the Midfoot Project. Get my hand out of the way. I feel like my dad taking a video. So we do these every week. You get a video, and we send you all the exercises and stuff that you should be doing that day. I just did a post about this great exercise, and we give you some homework in the Midfoot Project, and you get this every single week, where we're gonna essentially lead you through everything that you need. But this is what we would do for this runner. So let me turn this around here. Come on. All right. So I don't have my fancy desktop here, so that's why we're going a little strange. So I slowed this video down, and we're just going to watch her run. And what I want to do is just we can look at the foot and ankle, we can look at the hips and the shoulders, but let's just go ahead and pause this. And actually, this is a good, let's move it back just a touch. I'm trying to do this and not make a mess of things. Oh, come on, computer. There we go. All right, so one of the things I want to look at, my finger, let me see if I got a pen in my pocket. Of course I don't. Oh, I got this. One sec. It helps if you're prepared. Actually, we can do this. Let's see. You should be prepared when you do these things, right? But whatever. All right, so one of the things I look at is what's the angle like through the pelvis? And obviously this isn't super clean, but if we look and just erase that, you see how her hip is dropping. So this side is lower than the other side. What we're looking at there is her ability to control through this glute on this side. So if this muscle's not strong enough, what ends up happening is you see that this will fall down, and she's not strong enough. It's actually most people don't talk about this, but it's actually coming from both sides. The muscle, what's called your QL muscle on this side. I don't know why this is like that. Your QL muscle on this side and your glute med, mainly on this side, should be kind of doing this opposite type of pull thing. And when you don't have that strength, you see that this hip starts to drop down. So let's clear that quick. I don't even know how to do that on here. We're just gonna go and do this and erase all this stuff. So what ends up happening is you can see down here, see how her knees are knocking together? When the knees knock together, she's getting this uncontrollable spin down and in from her upper body. So this knee is spinning down and in. It's going to overload the foot, which is also going to spin down and in. And you're going to bang those knees together is kind of what you're seeing. We also look above. You can see how the arms start to go a little bit wide on both sides. And you get these, like I call them the triangles of death, which is really kind of an over-exaggeration. But the arms start to kick out to the side, as you can see on both of these. And what that does is it's just a way to balance. So I'll just kind of flip the camera around here quick. When someone doesn't have great glute strength, what they like to do is kick those arms out wide, and that's like I always compare it to like a tightrope walker who's walking across a tightrope, and they use their arms to try to balance themselves. But if you don't need that, what you see, if you ever run next to somebody or you can see someone from behind, they got this wide, we call them gunslingers in the Midfoot Project, where they got these wide arms and they're just kind of swinging them. That's usually a byproduct of not having great glute and hip strength. So when we look at why you want to have strong hips, is it's super inefficient to be kicking these arms out wide all the time, allowing this is the inefficiency of the movement. But down here, where we're looking at those knees collapse together, her hip drop on that other side, and her foot is going to be overstrained from this whole process. This is why it's really important. Because if this runner, and her run form needs work, and we're going to be working on that in the Midfoot Project, but if your run form is great, let's say her run form was spot on, but she still had these issues going on, it does not matter that her run form is great. So anyone who's thinking about improving their run form, you have to be thinking about this. There's flexibility, there's strength. You have to be working on the anatomy, because remember, when you heel strike and you have this poor type of run form, you're loading the bones of your body. So anytime the banging into that foot out, I'm actually going to try to draw this. This is probably not going to go well. Let's see what happens here. It's probably going to go as well as the last one did. Let me turn this thing around. All right. I was just working with a runner earlier with plantar fasciitis, so let's change this over. All right. Let's be pulling the cap out. So this is what happens when, this is really kind of a basic drawing. So this is someone who's running down the road, right? Really poor drawing. And I'll talk about some of these questions you guys have in a minute. But when someone heel strikes, they get the toes pulled up, they have this straight knee. Now this straight knee is really what the big thing is. And why it's so important to have good hip strength when you're working on run form is because when a runner runs like this, if you have a race photo, you see this with this big straight leg coming up, the ground force is coming up all through that leg, and it's banging into that structural system, those bones, where it's eraser, it's banging into all bones. So this big old heel strike equals bone shock absorption, okay? Here's the thing. When we take somebody away from that and we have them run midfoot, so let's say this is now our midfoot runner, we really look for this nice vertical shin, a nice 90 degree at the foot so that you're landing on the whole foot, not the toes. Now what the ground force does is it pushes up like this. It causes a spin in the knee, it causes a spin in the hip. When you switch to that, remember the other one's bone? This equals muscle. So imagine for a second that you're going to change your run form and you're going to take the load from the bones and give it to the muscles. Most runners are already weak in their glutes. Now you add some more load to that and you get in a lot of trouble. Again, that's why we do this in the Midfoot Project. We give you all these exercises because as you go through it and you're starting to learn how to midfoot strike, you certainly need to focus on these things. We've been doing this for about 10 years. That's, I think, the biggest thing we see with most runners when they change their run form is they continue to do what they always do, which is run, but they don't give the supportive exercise to it. And they just fall apart and their calves get really sore. Everything ends up hurting. So if you're a runner who's looking to transition to something like this and you want to load the muscles, the nice thing about this too, real quick, these guys are very friendly to you, and they also have what's called free speed or rubber bands. So when you load them, it's just like a bungee cord. You stretch it and you let go. That's what your muscles do. So it gives you a nice pop on your stride, and there's no calories requested for that. So it's really important to use these guys. But if you're a runner who's actually looking to do this, check out midfootproject.com. We are 2 weeks away from starting, where we're going to be launching this and getting started with our next training program. There are some questions here I do want to cover. Jason asked, is hip strength as important as muscle balance? So it's kind of a question of how I want to answer that. So when we think about hip muscle balance, you want to be balanced from your front to your back or between contracting muscle groups. So for example, if your quad's firing and your glutes firing, you'd want the right balance between front and back of your leg, right? So if you're overpowering on one side, that's an issue. So let's say you have strong glutes, but you have an imbalance where your quads are overpowering it. I don't think one is better than the other. I mean, they're both problems. If you have weak glutes, you have weak glutes. But the fact of the matter is that you need to be focused on some kind of glute strength in your running, because if you're not, you're just in trouble. I mean, it's clearly stated in the research, hip strength equals injury, and we see it constantly in the clinic as well. So if you had to choose between, like, I wouldn't even choose the term hip strength or hip balance or muscle balance. They're really one and the same to me. The key thing, you have to be strengthening. Now here's the thing, you can't be strengthening with clamshells, bridges, leg lifts, all that kind of stuff. You want to be focused on, let's go back to this, your hip strength exercises should, let's see, mimic this posturing, right? So, here's my eraser. Going a little long on this one. So if I erase this quick, when you are working on your hip strength, oh God, that's the tiniest pelvis ever. You want to, this is the front leg coming down, this is the back leg again. You want this kind of posture. You see how your foot's on the ground? So whenever you're doing a hip strength exercise, you want this. Now, how do you get this type of stuff? The ones that we really like, I put a video up the other day of lunging, speed skater stuff. So go back to my previous videos. You can go to Run Smart Facebook page and click on videos. You'll see it there. But we do this all for you. If you guys are interested, midfootproject.com. Glute strength, very important. It always will be, and it's been proven over and over again to be the #1 thing that runners need to work on. So I have to go back to treating patients now. And if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. And if you haven't yet, check out midfootproject.com. We're launching again in 2 weeks. All right. Bye, guys.